podcast. This is where we give you the preview show of the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers, who the 49ers own over the last couple of years. We will also talk a little bit about Trey Lance right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
I'm expecting to see a lot of Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel throughout the season. I don't know if I'm expecting that much throughout the preseason, Rohan, but welcome to another episode of the 49ers RedZone podcast to our listeners. This is my boy, Rohan. How you doing today, man?
Hey, we doing good. Day after training camp finished. Training camp day 12 was yesterday. Off day today, and we're headed right into the preseason. That starts tomorrow, and as you said, we're here to preview the game, recap training camp, give you guys the full breakdown of what to expect from the 49ers kind of heading into this week. And before we continue, I want to say a couple of things. One, there's an important deadline. The 49ers start cutting players to 85 players on August 16th. That is next week, which means that this game might be like make it or break it for certain players. And also the second thing, it's always, y'all got to do it. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button to the 49ers Red Zone podcast. Subscribe to my channel as well. You know, we're posting content daily, breaking down different things about the 49ers, giving you guys insight from what we exactly saw from the scenes itself. So be sure to subscribe to the 49ers Red Zone podcast. Hit us both up on Twitter. We highly appreciate it.
And if you guys see a little different, today we're going with the chat overlay. So we can see your guys' chat on the screen. You guys could also see that. So we're going to be talking about those as they come in every once in a while, because I do love what you guys have to say as well. The questions you guys have are phenomenal. And at the end of the day, I'm very excited to get going and talking about Trey Lance, because I had a question, and it was from one of my students, and it was very unique. It was a unique question I had got from my student. He goes, Mr. Goods, we're talking about how I went to training camp for a couple of days, and I was telling him how my buddy Rohan was there every day. And he was like, well, quick question, Mr. Martinez. Are you worried about Trey Lance as our quarterback? So today, Rohan and I are going to present the question, what is your guys' worry meter for Trey Lance? So I'm going to go straight to Rohan for it. Rohan, I'm going straight to you. What's your worry meter on Trey Lance? Out of a scale of 10, would you put yourself at a 1 through 10? What would you do?
So if we're talking about a worry meter, and 1 being not worried at all, 10 being completely worried, I'd honestly just put it at a 2 right now. And the reason that it's not a 1 is because of the expectations coming into this year, not only because the 49ers are a high-end roster that should be Super Bowl competitors with a regular team, but also because the 49ers and Trey Lance specifically has a lot to kind of prove in a way, unproven commodity. So I'll put it at 2. But the reason that I'm not worried, despite maybe an average showing at training camp, is because of what I said last week and earlier this week as well. This 49ers team is not necessarily predicated on a quarterback that is – they're not required to have an elite quarterback to win games. In fact, the entirety of the Kyle Shanahan era, they have made the playoffs, what is it now, two times? Yeah, because 2019, 2021, a Super Bowl run and an NFC championship game where they haven't had a top 16 quarterback the entire time. It's been, or maybe a top 10 quarterback the entire time. It's been an average quarterback play the entire time, which is why I'm telling you guys, it's okay to be patient with Trey Lance, because even if he has an up and down season for the 49ers, there's still optimism as to where they can make the playoffs because they have an elite defense as well as a talented run game paired with one of the best play callers and one of the better head coaches in the NFL.
So some people are saying 2 is pretty low. Some people were out there saying stuff like that. So make sure you guys all put your guys' worry meter number on there. We do have a legend in the house. He's saying there's 2 legends up here, but realistically, Raj is a legit legend. We appreciated having him on the pod the other day. Um, Honestly, what he does is phenomenal work on Instagram, Twitter. Everything he does is phenomenal. Getting to meet him was probably one of my highlights of training camp. So he's definitely a legend in my book.
Hey, that's
So
my brother.
I'm gonna say my worry meter, Rohan. After watching training camp, I'm not too worried, but realistically, if I was to put a realistic worry meter, I would put it as a 3 to a 4. And the reason why I put that, so I'd give it a 3.5. I'll put it right in the middle, right? So the reason why my worry meter is 3.5 isn't because of Trey Lance, but it's because of the expectations everyone has on this 49ers roster, right? So everyone's expecting NFC Championship or Super Bowl, right? That's what they want to do. Like that's the expectations, and people don't understand how hard it is to win in the NFL. Even with a great quarterback, if we look at the teams who have gone back to back Super Bowls and stuff like that, we don't see teams in the Super Bowl year in year out. We don't see teams in the NFC Championship year in year out. So the expectations are an ultimate high. They're like the highest I've ever seen for a 49ers team, in my opinion. The new young quarterback they just drafted third overall. Obviously, when they drafted Alex Smith first overall, like the expectations were super high because you just took a quarterback first overall. Yet that was a very poor team around him and stuff like that. But Trey Lance taken third overall, expectations are NFC Championship or better because you're replacing the quarterback with someone you're expecting to be better. So I would say that's the main reason my worry meter is at a 3.5 because of the fans' expectations and the fans not allowing Trey Lance to grow, right? So if Trey Lance comes out and has a bad day, a bad game, we've seen it in camp already. As soon as he has a bad camp practice, everyone's saying he's a bust. The moment he throws an interception is the moment I'm gonna log off Twitter for the next 24 hours because as soon as he throws an interception, I can already see the timeline. I could already see certain people who are trolls
All
saying
right,
he's a
I'm
bust.
doing that. I'm gonna be that troll.
I guess I will log off Twitter. I really will. Like if as soon as I see a troll,
Block me.
I'm
Block
just
me.
gonna I'm blocking Rohan. I actually might just do it tonight because Rohan's going to the game tomorrow, and if the Niners don't do anything on the first drive, I'm fully expecting Rohan to go all out and just start calling Trey a bust. I mean, hey, Trey might be the next player that comes after you. We already seen Leon O'Neal want to attack you on the timeline. So hey, Trey might be the next guy. You might
All right,
be.
it's time to log off this show. I'll see you guys.
See, I'm seeing. Hey, he might be the next guy that
I'm
these
joking.
players start not liking. I mean, hey, who knows? Um, so there's a couple of good ones right here. So like, I like this comment. My expectations are that he improves. So in a vacuum about his progressions, I worry most on his health when running. It's about a 3 or 4, right? So then we had a shout out to our boy Raj. All love, you two are amazing. It was a pleasure meeting you both. Much love, brother. This one's pretty cool. My worry meter regarding Trey is also a 2, just like Rohan. Trey is already better than Jimmy, and he's only going to get much better with experience. I agree. From what I saw, I thought he was better. Um, exactly. Raj even agrees. You get him, or no, wrong one. Clicked on the wrong one.
But still,
Right
got to say
here.
shout out to Stanley there. But yeah, I'm getting blocked. But one thing I want to bring up when we talk about Trey Lance that really, really elevated on the last day of training camp. I guess it's a good transition because we wanted to talk about the last day of training camp, and that is his rushing ability. On the last day of training camp, it was the longest day of the entire training camp period. We had 2 hours. It went till almost 12:30 p.m. Uh, Practice starts around 10:15 ish, 10 maybe even earlier times, and it went till 12:30. By far the longest one. And there were two things that were really implemented in the offense. Offense did struggle, but play action was at a high volume, and zone read was at a high volume. Two things where Trey Lance is expected to play better at than maybe straight up passing from the pocket and things like that. Getting him on the run, getting him in his comfortable area where he's able to make good decisions. That's where the 49ers and I expect at least the 49ers to kind of implement that more so in the first couple of weeks if Trey Lance is struggling at times, because that was there a ton yesterday. And while Trey Lance didn't necessarily have the most efficient day passing, those two usages were the reason that the offense was still able to move the ball at times.
So is this the point where I take a step back, show my Nick Bosa jersey, and do the Nick Bosa shrug because of the fact that we've been saying we're going to see a lot more play action and what was going on at training camp wasn't really what the 49ers are going to be calling, because that's literally what we just did, right? Go heavy play action, a lot more rushing ability from Trey Lance. That's where I hit with the shrug that and say "I told you so" kind of thing to people, because everyone's like, "Oh, it's a new offense. It's a new." No, Kyle's going to use the play action heavy that he's done in the past. He's going to use it a little bit more because Trey Lance excels in that area. But I think it was very interesting, right, Rohan? So Trey, he had an up and down camp, right? He had his moments where he struggled, his moments where he looked well. But something that I did notice throughout the entirety of camp is when Kyle Shanahan is calling the plays with a rhythm, with a I shouldn't say rhythm, I should say tempo. Okay, when he has a good
All right.
tempo, we're getting plays in and out, in and out. We tend to see Trey Lance in a better situation. Do you agree or disagree that when there's a tempo, Trey Lance looks much better?
No, I agree. That's kind of been the norm in training camp. He's been better when it's a game situation. And I actually honestly think that's expected for most quarterbacks. Because first of all, when it's not a game situation, the first part of practice, there is no harm in you airing the ball down the field. You don't lose it down. You don't necessarily have to get off the field. It's just you practicing a play. And so yesterday, especially with the cornerbacks out, we saw an ultra aggressive approach from the offense. Just target the ball downfield. 4 of Trey Lance's first 10 throws went 35 yards down the field. All 4 were incompletions, with I believe 2 of them turning into, or one of them turning into a pass interference, and the other should have been a pass interference or something like that. But overall, you saw a different approach. But when you get into the move the ball period, Trey Lance is a much more refined quarterback in his decision making. He's not trying to air it out into heavily contested areas and trying to make plays and see what works. Instead, his goal is just to get first downs. His goal is to do so by whatever means necessary, and that's where you saw what I said. You saw the implementation of play action. You saw the implementation of the zone read. We saw on one day Trey Lance overall. There was a period of time where he just ran the ball 4 straight plays, and it wasn't bad reads. Some of them were zone reads, some of them were scrambled, and one I believe was a read option. He ran the ball 4 times in a row. And does that mean Trey Lance is a rushing quarterback? No. But instead, the goal is just to get first downs and make the right reads in doing so. And so when players aren't open in the move the ball period as to not in the move the ball period, you're going to try and make the best play possible rather than trying to fit it in tight windows and see what works.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying, right? The offense is ultra aggressive and ultra trying to push the ball down the field. So same thing, like I'm gonna go into teacher Martinez mode right now. And when I do that, it's pretty much like I tell my students, if you aren't practicing something, you can't get good at that, right? So if you're not practicing to the deep ball, you're not practicing that, you're not going to ever get good at it. And the best time to practice pushing the ball downfield is 100% camp. Because like Rohan says, you don't lose a down. It doesn't hurt you to practice something in practice. Like it literally doesn't. And it blows my mind that we have fans that are saying, oh, why was he pushing the ball downfield and he's only completing 50% of his passes? Dude, it's practice. Like when the games start, we will see Trey Lance being more conservative in terms of checking the ball down, getting high completion percentages. It's the way the offense works. Is a quarterback is going to have a higher completion percentage than most because they're easy throws, and then that's what Kyle Shanahan likes to implement in his offense.
And the other part I want to mention, because some of the inefficiencies came due to sacks yesterday. In the first period, you don't necessarily care if you take a sack because it's not going to move you back. Whereas in the second period, your goal is the first read that you see that's open, you're firing to that read rather than waiting and trying to see if a bigger play develops, because you don't want to get sacked. That causes a loss of yards. And so I believe there were like 7 sacks or 8 sacks overall yesterday. And if I count back, I don't have it off the top of my head, but if I count back, I can assure that a majority of them were not in the move the ball period. There were obviously some. I think there were 2 or 3 of the 8 that were, but a majority of them were not in the move the ball period. And I also see another comment real quick from Zachary about the 4 throws from Trey Lance. He said one was a drop by Debo. It wasn't a drop. It was the ball was just a little too far out. Deebo Samuel had dived for the catch. He had beaten Kadar Holman and Ambry Thomas on the play. It was about a 50-yard pass to begin training camp, and he had beaten both of them and extended out fully, and the ball had fallen out of his hands full extension. I don't consider that a drop. It was a fairly good throw by Trey Lance. If it had been literally an inch inside, it likely would have been a catch, even with Samuel extending. That one, though, I don't believe, at least in my opinion, was not a drop.
Did it hit his hands?
It would hit his fingertips. Extended, hit his fingertips.
How much money does he make?
He makes a good amount of money, but still.
Make a play.
Nah.
Make a play. That's what you're paid to do. That's what you're paid to do. That's what you're paid to do. Make a play, right? Look, there's a thing all receivers say.
Obviously had the drop issues. I just didn't think I forget. I've seen like a lot of comments in my mentions about Deebo Samuel drops yesterday. He had 2 targets or 3 targets yesterday, I believe. I forget exactly the amount. 2 of them were highly hard throws. I don't consider them drops. One was a high air from Nate Sudfeld. Samuel jumped up for it, and it was still too high. Both of them hit his fingertips, but you can consider it a drop, but I don't consider both of them a drop. I just thought they were missed throws.
There's a saying by all receivers. I know all receivers use it because receivers are divas, right?
Go for
There's this saying that all quarterbacks suck. It's my responsibility to make the quarterback look good. So it's his responsibility to bring that shit in and catch the ball. If it's hitting your fingertips, bring that shit in, catch the ball, make a play. At the end of the day, you got to make plays, right? But it sounds like it was overthrown a little bit. The way you're saying, he fully extended, laid out for it. Tough play. One that you want your receiver to make, one that you're not going to be upset if he doesn't make because it's a hard catch, right?
Exactly.
But all seriousness, we're going into a state of time where we start seeing preseason games, right? Like, for example, we have preseason games going on right now as we speak. 49ers play tomorrow. They play the Green Bay Packers, a team they own, right? Like I said in the intro, a team they own. Just throw it out there because I know everyone doesn't like the Packers. So if you don't like the Packers, yeah, even in the preseason, if you don't like the Packers, guess what? Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button because if you don't like the Packers like we do, hit that like and subscribe button, right?
Hey,
but
I'm going to Wisconsin. I'm a Packer fan, man. That's
you are, dude. That's how it is. Once you move to Wisconsin, you become a cheesehead. I think the cheesehead fits your head perfect, Rohan. But going into the season, right? Going into the preseason, let's talk a little bit about expectations and what fans should expect from certain players and certain position groups, right? Because a lot of times I feel like the expectations are for the first offense. If they get one series, they expect the offense to move the ball downfield and score a touchdown, no matter who was on the field. So let's throw some expectations out there, Rohan. I think it's about that time we start being a little honest with people and putting it out there what we expect instead of hyping players up and stuff like that, which I don't think anyone has, in my opinion. I think we've both done a pretty good job in trying to keep it steady and not be too high or not too low on any of the players. So let's talk a little about Trey Lance. What are your expectations for Trey Lance?
Look, it's his first time in real life action, but also the first time against a defense that isn't this defense. So to me, my expectation for Trey Lance, I am assuming he's going to have several series. I want him, what I'm mainly looking at is third downs. He's converted them fairly highly over the last couple of days, despite his inaccuracies in general. How does he move the ball on third downs? And will Kyle Shanahan trust him enough to throw the ball at times on third downs? And will he have enough trust in himself to run it if need be? And can the 49ers offense convert against what should be Packer backups or half Packer starters, half Packer backups, whatever it may be? Can they convert against a defense that will be worse than what they have seen so far in camp?
So I agree with you, right? Because you say something about see, Rohan, you're having people unsubscribe to the channel because you're saying you're a Packers fan now, dude. What's wrong with you?
Come back.
What's wrong with you? No, but going back to Trey Lance, right? Now, I like today's episode. I think that the fans, whoever's in here, like all our fans and our listeners are the Red Zone. I'm gonna start. You know what? We're naming our subscribers the Red Zone, right? Like that's the Red Zone.
Okay.
So that's I'm going with that. All right. So the Red Zone today is pretty active, and they're pretty pretty interactive, and I think they're coming at you. That some of them are blocking you, some of them are unscribing because of you. I love it. I'm doing the same thing because Rohan is killing me right now. But Trey Lance, right? Our expectations for him is I'm not expecting too much. I want to see him get through progressions, check the ball down,
That's
move
a
the
good one.
offense a little bit, right? Like I want to see him get through progressions, check the ball down. Don't force anything. Don't do anything that's too crazy because at the end of the day, I want to see if he could lead the offense. I know he could. I know he's there for explosive plays, and I know we're gonna have those with him. But I want to see can on 3rd down and 4, can he move the sticks with his legs or with his arm or even with his eyes and his IQ, right? And stuff like that. That's what I'm expecting to see. I'm not expecting to see him go all crazy, throw a bomb to Brandon Ayuk that walks into the end zone. I'm not expecting that. I'm absolutely not. Some people would expect Trey Lance to come out there and throw bombs to everyone on the field. I want them to see. I want to see the 49ers getting a solid run game for Trey Lance to allow him to go play action. And then from there, I want to see Trey Lance eat and play action like he did in college.
Mhm.
I want to say a shout out to my boy Jesse. He comes up with a comment right here. I cannot believe you talked
Oh, man.
so bad about Leon O'Neal. You have no idea why he hasn't flashed. I'm going to tell you guys why he hasn't flashed. Look, I told Rohan yesterday, or when it was happening, I don't know what day it was going down. I told Rohan, I said, Rohan, you're lucky. He's lucky that he commented on you. Much respect to Leon O'Neal. But I don't have the kind of patience and the kind of respect that Rohan has. Obviously, I have the respect for them because obviously they're NFL athletes. But I would have said right away, I would have been like, from what I've seen from practice, you look better in walkthroughs than you did in regular practice. Because in walkthroughs, he was sprinting around making plays. In walkthroughs, right? These players are walking through the reps, and he's sprinting around making these plays. But then when actual third team came out, I didn't really see much of him. So don't be coming on my timeline when I'm answering questions, giving good context. Like because Rohan gave great context. There was no but he didn't just put this out there without context. He put great context.
And the
So
main
I
thing
would
that
have,
I said really was the 49ers have him sixth on the depth chart at
which is not a
safety,
lie.
which is on their page. Like your own team has posted the screenshot of the depth chart. That's all I said because it is true. Taylor Hawkins has played better than Leon O'Neal in general. And while Taylor Hawkins got juked on a play, overall, I think he's been the better safety. And it seems like the 49ers agree right now because they cut Leon O'Neal Jr. on Monday. Like I told him, I wish the best for him. And I also hope he gets back from injury because I don't mean any disrespect ever to NFL players. I was just objectively answering that question that a fan posed to me.
So the thing is though, Rohan, like the 2 days I was at camp, he wasn't on he wasn't impressing, right? So it's like if you're not impressing, so the way I when I go to camp, if I'm only there for 2 to 3 days, what I like to do is someone who jumps off the field to me right away. That's how you know they're ballers, right? Talanoa Hufanga instantly day one when I was there last year in camp, he was showing up. Same thing with Elijah Mitchell. Those two guys popped off the field this year. First guy that popped off the field, Spencer Burford. So like for him to say like I don't care if you're undrafted free agent, I'll give you your credit. I thought Quantress Knight was pretty decent, and so was Taylor Hawkins. They looked better than Leon O'Neal. Like it's not a diss to be sixth on the depth chart, bro. You're in the NFL, like you're trying to make a team. But going back to what we're talking about, right? Because Jesse threw us off talking about Leon O'Neal coming at my boy Rohan. Um, yes, okay, Rohan, they're coming back for you, bro. They're starting to support you again.
We back. We back.
So Rohan, you were obviously there at practice the camp the entire day. Out of any of the players on offense, who do you expect to shine the most? If the 49ers offense gets, let's say, half a quarter, if they get half a quarter, who do you expect from that starting offensive group to shine the most?
Now, obviously, the easiest answer could be Brandon Ayuk, the best player in training camp for the offensive side so far, especially if he's going against backup level corners and not Eric Stokes or not Jair Alexander. I don't know if Alexander's out there yet, but not the starting level. If
Yeah.
he's going up against backup level cornerbacks, he should be the guy to shine. And especially if Trey Lance is looking to get a rhythm and move the ball, that's the guy. But I'm going to go with a different guy because in Move the Ball, there has been a guy who's been targeted. It's been on and off, but there's been sometimes where he's targeted heavily and sometimes where he's targeted very few. But I hope that he gets integrated. He's worked pretty well with Trey Lance.
Can I take a
And
guess on who you're gonna say?
go for it.
Is it Ray McLeod?
No, it's George
No.
Kittle. It's
Oh
George
wow,
Kittle.
I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting you to say George Kittle because like it's a bigger name, so fans are gonna expect that. I was expecting from what I saw from Ray McLeod. I was like, okay, he's nice. Okay, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, but what I mean is George Kittle and Trey Lance. George Kittle has been the second highest targeted player in Niners training camp, behind Brandon Ayuk, obviously. And Ayuk's been that guy for sure. But I want to also see Trey Lance complete throws over the middle and not aim wide. And the main way to do that is to be targeting the player who's going to be most frequently over the middle, and that's George Kittle. But I also want to see Trey Lance hit those checkdowns, hit those easier throws, rather than trying to move the ball too hard. And that is where George Kittle comes in, because you can catch these 7 outs. You can catch these 5 outs while also catching the 15s over the middle that Kittle has done in camp. They've been working on their connection. You saw them one day after the red zone period where George Kittle didn't get a single target. What was the first thing they did after camp? I believe this was on Tuesday. First thing they did after that session, both of them went to the other field and worked together with Trey Lance trying to hit him on back shoulder throws in the red zone. So I'm hoping that connection develops, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lance's first touchdown pass, if it was in the red zone, would be to George Kittle.
That's actually very interesting because everyone wants to see George Kittle take the next step, right? Like we all know George Kittle is a great receiver, a great blocker, but he's been limited, right, with Jimmy Garoppolo and the inability of the offensive line to pass protect because of an immobile quarterback. So now that the 49ers have a mobile quarterback and a better offensive line, in my opinion, than it was last year, at least interior-wise, the right guard and center looks a little bit better than what it did, in my opinion, from what I saw, at least. I thought Spencer Burford is a lot better than Daniel Brunskill, and I think Jake Brendel has done a phenomenal. If I could speak today, I spoke so much throughout the day teaching. Let me speak, Marco, okay? It's got to talk to yourself every once in a while. So I thought he did a phenomenal job replacing Alex Mack, which is very interesting because Alex Mack is a great center. So but the player I want to see, and I think is going to shine, Rohan, it's going to be a player that no one's expecting, right? Trey Sermon. I think Trey Sermon's going to come out. I think he's going to get some run with the ones. When I did see him last at camp, when he did get run with the ones, he's picking up 6 to 8 yards roughly.
He got all the first team ones yesterday because no Mitchell, so he was that guy yesterday, and he played well. Good pick.
So I think he's going to shine, dude. Like from what I've seen, literally, in my notes I put looks more like Oklahoma State and Ohio State, or Oklahoma and Ohio State. Sorry, Trey Sermon. Then rookie year one, Trey Sermon. He looks explosive. He looks in shape. He looks like he knows what he wants to do with the football. And that's something that when he's decisive, he's a very good runner. Is there anyone else in terms of? Because I know people want to see obviously like the third strings, the backups and stuff. Who's someone that in terms of is on the bubble that could potentially push their way into making the roster, whether it's week one, at least this week, make an impact right now?
So there are a couple of players because there's obviously a number of deep rooms. I'm gonna go with a couple. I'll go with 2 and see where you lead. First, I'll go with the guy who I think, or the group of guys that could make the roster. Let's start with the linebackers. I think LB5 right now is an uncertainty. And even if LB5 is a lock, last year the 49ers had a linebacker stand out in preseason in Jonas Griffith, who they ended up trading to get an extra 6th round pick, trading a 7th and Griffith for a 6th from the Denver Broncos. And the 49ers have a good pair of linebackers this year, or a good trio, really. You have Curtis Robinson, who's the Mike. If you like a Mike linebacker who's vocal, who's a leader, and who can also play a role in the run game, that's him. But if you like pass coverage, speedy linebackers who also have the ability to reach sideline to sideline, that's Marcelino McCrary-Ball and Segun Olabi, 2 guys who have looked really well so far in training camp, especially McCrary-Ball. I think the 49ers I think they could do one of 2 things. They could either view him as a potential replacement to one of the guys that they have right now and give him that last roster spot if he has a really good preseason, or they could flip him like they flipped Griffith, an undrafted free agent last year. So I'm thinking that linebacker room, it might see some shakeup because you have 3 undrafted free agent linebackers this year in McCrary Ball, Olubi, and Jeremiah Gemmell. There's a chance that just like in 2020 when Justin Hilliard was claimed by the New York Giants, given the 49ers propensity for developing these guys and the entire league's understanding of it, there's a chance that one of those guys could go claimed, or even Curtis Robinson by that chance.
So I'm very interested that you said Mercury Ball because all right. So fun story. Rohan tells me before I get to camp, Mercury Ball has flashed, right? And I'm thinking, okay, like he's making plays against the second team. He's doing what he's supposed to do. But I was interested to see how his speed looked, how he was reacting, because you got to read and react as a linebacker. So I'm looking, okay, let's see what he has. The dude's a baller. He knows how to read and react. His speed's there. He can get sideline to sideline. But my biggest thing about him was he's not one of those linebackers that's going to be sideline to sideline. He's getting downhill quick,
Yeah.
and he's ready to pop you. That's what I like to see from linebackers because you could be a sideline to sideline guy, but if you can't get downhill, now you're giving up 3 yards every time someone runs the ball against you.
Right.
And for me, what I saw from him, he was getting tackles in the backfield. He was running down the field with tight ends. He picked up on I forgot who it was. It might have been Jawan Jennings. Picked up Jawan Jennings, who was running down the field. For a linebacker to get on a slot, get in the slot and cover receivers and tight ends, that tells me they could play ball. And so I'm not shocked you say McCreary Ball. A player I'm going to throw out there to go with what you're saying. I really want to see Tarvarius Moore, right? Because a lot of people are expecting, even myself, I'm expecting Talanoa Hufanga to play and start. I'm expecting him to start. But I thought, from my opinion, what I saw from Tarvarius Moore, I think he should be able to push Talanoa Hufanga for the starting position. I think what he showed in camp those 2 days, at least those 2 days I was there, I thought he looked starting caliber, especially if the 49ers want to go a little bit more single high coverage throughout the entirety of the year. He's better suited for so. And I think with his speed and the element that he could provide for the back end, not only would it give the 49ers the ability to put Jimmy Ward down in the slot and cover better receivers that are coming out of the slot, so you don't have to put that much stress on a young rookie like Samuel Womack. But you could also use Tarvarius Moore in that spot on tight ends, right? So you don't have to have Fred Warner on the tight end. You can have Fred Warner roam around and be that kind of guy. So that's a player I'm expecting to stand out during week 1 of training camp. Or not training camp, preseason. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I'll give one other mention because that's a really good mention. And I see the comment from Kali. D'Amico will use more 3 safety sets. We've seen it
Like he did last
debuted
year.
in training camp as well. I think last year we saw it, and now with the more developed Talanoa Hufanga, as well as just such a diverse skill set, right? Because Jimmy Ward's your do-it-all. He can play a lot. But the other thing is we've seen Jimmy Ward, at least early on, a lot more in the box than we've seen him in times past. I think they're going to allow him to play a little more comfortably this year rather than lock him into a position because of necessity. And the diversity in that backfield or in the back end, because Hufanga can play very well, especially near the box, right, where he's a little more comfortable and can dissect in the run game as well as sometimes pick up in coverage as well. While Tarvarius Moore is your speed guy, he can play single high in the back end. You've got a group of people who have differing skill sets, and that might just allow for D'Amico Ryans to plug and play different guys in certain situations. There were certain times, I think on 2 days, where you saw Tarvarius Moore got the start at safety, and it's not because they didn't have any faith in Talanoa Hufanga, but in walkthroughs, they're trying to go through different plays that would involve Tarvarius Moore being that guy as a single high safety. So I would not be opposed to that. And obviously, Moore's got the athleticism. He can cover at times. He's been caught in coverage a couple of times as well. I'm interested to see, does he continue to win, or does he continuously win at the catch point or not? Because he has been caught in coverage a couple of times. But how does he impact the game when he's on the field? Will that speed show? There has been times where it has shown. And real quick, Marco, the last position I want to say, I don't think this player will make the roster because of a player on top of him, but it's a guy who has just impressed me a lot in training camp, and that's receiver Tay Martin. Now, Tay
Oh
Martin
yeah.
has He has a release package that's really good. He's a route runner that's pretty good. He might not necessarily be fast, but the way that he gets off the line of scrimmage, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in a way between him and some other players. And so to me, Tay Martin is a guy who definitely could flash. I think he's a prime practice squad candidate because I currently think Malik Turner is a guy who should make the roster if the 49ers carry 6 and will be the first guy out if the 49ers carry 5. But the thing is, the 49ers really rotate their top 6 receivers in with all 3 teams, which means the backups haven't gotten much action at all. Now, in a 60-minute game, that's going to change as opposed to 5 plays, 7 plays with third team offense. And so Tay Martin is going to see some good time. And yesterday he flashed. He had a 12-yard catch, I believe, and then another catch as well. He hasn't dropped a pass all training camp. That's unlike Austin Mack, who has dropped a couple of passes, including another one yesterday. And so he's been the best undrafted free agent wide receiver for the team. Taysier Mack was already cut. And I think that it would be very nice to see him in extended action. And I don't know if he'll push Malik Turner just because Malik Turner's had a really good camp so far, but he would be a very, very solid candidate for the practice squad if he continues how he's played so far in training camp.
I think that's a phenomenal one, right? Because I said in the past that I do believe Tay Martin is going to be that guy who shows up preseason and it forces the 49ers not to cut him because there's going to be a team that wants him. He reminds me so much of Kendrick Bourne in the way he gets off the line of scrimmage and how he runs his routes. How he, even though he's not the fastest dude, he sells his route. He's a very good salesman, and that's one thing I've noticed about him. He knows how to run routes very well. So I could see the 49ers, I could see the 49ers keeping him over a guy like Malik Turner only because of the route running ability and the special teams ability. I think he's very capable of being a special team guy as well. I'm gonna go another route because
Go for it.
I want to see another player shine, and I know we might see him throughout the entirety of the preseason. I want to see Brock Purdy. Realistically, no, like I'm being serious. Like one of these reason why I want to see Brock Purdy is because when you're going up against a defense consistently day in day out, um, you tend not to do so well. And he's had a pretty solid camp. At the end of the day, even though he has a weak arm, he has the ability to not push the ball
That's true.
downfield. His IQ is there, and he has this. I want to say he has like the personal work ethic to be decent in the NFL. What I've seen from him, and he reminds me of a prototypical Kyle Shanahan quarterback, like a Brian Hoyer with the lesser arm, right? Like that's what he is, and I want to see him do well because if he does, I think the 49ers can stash him on the practice squad. And then if Nate Sudfeld walks after this year, then they have a backup quarterback, right? So that's why I want to see him do well. I want to see him succeed in this offense. I think he's gonna shine only because it's a rhythm style of offense, and when you're running the offense the right way, we've seen what happens when you run the offense the right way, even with bad quarterbacks. Look at Nick Mullins. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not saying Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback by any means, but I'm saying look at those two quarterbacks. They were capable of doing very well. So I'm saying he could be exactly like Zach's saying, right? That's the perfect way to put it. I'm saying he could be a lifetime backup for Kyle Shanahan, and that's something that I'm totally fine with having that 7th round pick becoming. So that's why I want to see him do well. I want to see him get through progressions, see how he actually pushes the ball downfield in a live game setting.
You heard it here first. Marco Martinez of the 49ers Red Zone podcast reports that Brock Purdy could be the next Chase Daniel, collecting $2 million a year to play 0 snaps. No,
I
I'm
wouldn't be
joking.
shocked. To be realistic, I wouldn't be shocked. He has the IQ for it. You just got to be able to have the IQ and the mental capacity to run these kind of offenses in the NFL, and I think he has that.
Yeah, but about Purdy. So he had a rough first start to camp, like original start, because when the 49ers are trying to move the ball down the field, you could definitely see the lack of arm strength, right? And that's where 2 of his interceptions early, I think it was on day 2 or day 3 of camp, 2 of his interceptions early came, and they were floater balls. However, Purdy had a really good day, I believe, to end training camp on Wednesday. Started the day 4 for 4, had one of the better days of the quarterbacks. And well, I don't think it's a quarterback 2 battle. I still think that Nate Sudfeld will win the job for sure in 2022. Brock Purdy is a solid practice squad stash and has given me more confidence as training camp has gone through that he could be a potential backup in the future. Because, like you said, it's with Kyle Shanahan right now. What does Kyle Shanahan do better than any other offensive play caller? It's get receivers open. We saw that time and time again during training camp, and Brock Purdy has the ability to hit open receivers down the field as well. And we saw that a couple of times. But the biggest thing that I'm impressed about Brock Purdy is his pocket presence. That's where the IQ comes in. Brock Purdy has had really good pocket presence the entire camp, where he's been able to step up in the pocket when defenders are coming in off the edge, which is important, especially because the 49ers have that with Trey Lance. And so the tendencies, if in the future, if the tendencies between the quarterbacks don't have to switch, it makes it easier on the offensive line. And so pocket presence, that's the main thing for Brock Purdy. Obviously, in my opinion, doesn't really have an NFL-esque arm, but solid guy so far to be that practice squad quarterback. And this is his biggest opportunity because he might play half the game in some of these games.
Yeah, absolutely agree. He's probably going to play a lot more than fans want to see. Fans want to see Trey Lance more, and he's going to be the one to get the run. I think this is a solid question we got from Luis guest earlier. How important is for Nate Sudfeld to play well as pressure keeps growing that surrounds Trey? You can go and hit this one first. What's the pressure like? Do you think it's important for him to play well?
No, I don't, honestly, because I've made this argument before. I don't care about the backup quarterback situation. And I point to look at the Buffalo Bills right now. Mac Barkley is their backup quarterback. I don't know if he should be in the NFL right now
Don't you
overall.
disrespect the USC legend?
No, Matt Barkley's solid, but like at this point in his career, a veteran. But Chad Henne is the quarterback for like Jacksonville Jaguars legend Chad Henne. He's the backup to Patrick Mahomes. Like really of the main contenders, of the top contenders, like even the Rams right now, Stafford is going through some arm issues. Their backup is John Wolford.
Dude,
Like
that sounds like a teacher, like a substitute teacher.
Yeah, and I mean, like literally last year, before he got signed by them, he was working a different job completely. Like overall, if you look at the top contenders, there's only one team that truly had a paid backup quarterback, and that's the Cleveland Browns because they expected Deshaun Watson's situation for him to at least be suspended 6 games. And also, I think they originally expected him to be the backup to Baker Mayfield, who has had injuries in the past and also was on a 1-year deal. So that's the one contender that I can see. I don't care as much about the backup quarterback situation. I honestly thought like back in March that the 49ers were going to re-sign Nate Sudfeld because it was the best financial situation for them, especially since they dragged this Garoppolo situation so long with his $27 million contract. I don't think it's that important if Nate Sudfeld played as well. I think he's shown flashes definitely in training camp. He has the stronger arm of the quarterbacks, and I think he's going to get a lot of time. But I'm not too worried if he doesn't play well, especially because history has shown that Kyle Shanahan can get quarterbacks overall to play as he needs them to play. Not elite, obviously, but he can get them to play to a respectable level when he has backup quarterbacks in. Now, the 49ers haven't necessarily won all of those games, but you've seen the stats. In his first 13 starts, Nick Mullins has had the third most passing yards of any rookie quarterback behind like Patrick Mahomes and some other star that I forget.
So I absolutely agree. I don't think it's important for Nate Sudfeld to play well. Even if Trey Lance is struggling, they're not going to go to Nate Sudfeld. They're going to stick with Trey Lance until they're going to ride those grow pains. If it's year one and he's really, really struggling, they're still going to ride it. Like they're not going to. Their defense is going to be good enough to have them in playoff contention. They won't go to the backup quarterback, especially when you draft a young player third overall. So
exactly
going into the preseason, right? We tend to see players be held out, players not playing, and stuff like that. Do you think the 49ers should play their entire starting offensive front? Because you and I both seen what the um, offensive line looks like when they're going up against second string players. Do you think that could be an inability that could potentially get Trey Lance hurt, or something that prevents him from showcasing what he can do?
I'm on the opposite. I actually think the 49ers should play their starting offensive group for a little bit. And I don't like, if we're being honest, I'd hope that the receivers get out there. But the reason is we haven't seen the entirety of this offense play that much in training camp because Deebo Samuel was out for a while. Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams have both been limited. We've had a starting center continuously switch between Brendel and Brunskill. We haven't had much continuity. On top of that, at the running back position, we have 4 different guys that can compete for reps with the first team offense. So we haven't really seen much continuity. And more so, I don't. I mean, we're confident in the top 2 receivers. I'm more so wanting to see the relationship between the offensive line and Trey Lance to develop. But the reason that the receivers are also important is because for Trey Lance to really go through game situations, you need to see how the receivers get open and things like that, so that there's that continuity. So Lance isn't forcing balls early because he's trying to throw to receivers, and he's also not holding it too long because he's trying to wait for receivers to get open and then eventually get sacked like he did a couple of times. So to me, I do want the 49ers front to get open. Now, if this was last year and if it was Jimmy Garoppolo, or if it was in 2020 and if it was Jimmy Garoppolo heading into year 3, I wouldn't be as worried. It's not as worried, but I wouldn't be as wanting the 49ers to play their starters. But right now, this unit, just get them more cohesion, get them more reps so that they can all play together, because the guards are going to benefit from a true center being out there, which is likely to be Brendel. And then the guards are also going to benefit from the tackles being out there consistently, because they obviously haven't necessarily played the entire offseason with the tackles. And even then, they've been limited at times. Like yesterday, McGlinchey was limited. So you had McKivitz and Skule play on the right side, which doesn't help necessarily with the cohesion at right guard there. And so to me, offensive line, if they can build some continuity and if they can build some that rapport, that helps the quarterback, which in result helps the entire offense. That's how I'm viewing this. So I do hope that they can play together.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. I've been saying the 49ers should not play Trey Lance if they don't have their starting offensive tackles out there. It's pointless to do so, especially if the Packers are going to run a couple of their starters out there, which I think they will, because they did draft a couple of defensive linemen, at least one defensive lineman. So they're going to have at least a couple of their starting defensive linemen out there. And if you have that going, I don't think you should have Trey Lance out there, because if Trey Lance is getting hit, Trey Lance is getting pressured and rushed, you're literally getting him reps that don't even matter. Like, these reps would not matter. I mean, I guess you would get him pressure reps, but that doesn't do much for a quarterback who needs to get his entire offense in a actual rhythm going forward into the season. I think if the 49ers allow Trey Lance to get at least one series with that offensive line, I think it would be great to see, because I think that offensive line is going to allow the 49ers to run the ball and allow the play action and allow Trey Lance to work off of that. So I hope to see the whole line starting. I mean, if anything, we might not see Mike McGlinchey because of the injury. They're probably going to ease him in. But I hope to see Trent Williams at least. Going back to a couple players, I'm going to throw some names out there. What do these players need to do in order to have a good preseason, whether that's week 1 or week 2 and 3? So starting with Jordan Mason. What do you think Jordan Mason needs to do in order to shine week 1?
Being bluntly, he needs to eclipse Jeff Wilson Jr. in terms of ability on the field. And to me, the best way to do that, right now the 49ers have a trio of runners that I'm confident in running the football. The best way, in my opinion, that Jeff Wilson Jr. can make this roster is if he continues to showcase his ability as a receiver, which he should also get more volume in a 60-minute game now, with the 49ers rotating a lot, especially in that backfield. I want to see him get a lot of volume as a receiver. How does he run routes? I also want to see, now that there's live tackling, how does that vision come into play, and how does he break out of tackles as well? Because he's a powerful physical runner, but really it doesn't matter until not only pads are on, but tackling is there. Can he break out of some tackles, whereas Jeff Wilson Jr. might not, and instead is more of a cut, like a one cut type of rusher, a bit of a smoother rusher with his quickness. And the other thing is pass protection. It's not that big of a deal necessarily, but I do want a third down running back to at least have somewhat of a combination of pass protecting skills and receiving skills so that the 49ers can devise sets where they're not necessarily giving away what they're doing on third down, especially in third and short scenarios, right? They kind of have that right now with Trey Sermon, kind of have that with Elijah Mitchell. Davis Price has struggled right at times in the receiving game. He was never a receiving back in college either. And then Jeff Wilson Jr. is a receiver. Can he showcase both of those abilities? I think that all of those combined will help him potentially push Jeff Wilson Jr. for that fourth spot. But right now, honestly, it's really a battle. And I also real quick saw a question, I forget where it is earlier, about am I still down on Jeff Wilson Jr.? No. In my practice reports of week 2, he's kind of revived himself a little bit. He's shown better vision than he did in week 1. And while the explosiveness might have taken a step back, I still think that he's in the mix for sure, based on the depth chart and also just based on what he's shown in week 2. I believe week 2 and the parts of week 2 that he played. I think he's shown enough to be in the mix still. So it'll be a very interesting battle.
No, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to see him obviously eclipse Jeff Wilson Jr. I still think Mason's going to make the roster. I think he's going to end up showing enough in the preseason to cut Jeff Wilson Jr. And that's going to be a surprise cut to many, or potentially even trade Jeff Wilson Jr. away to a team that needs a backup running back or a running back that could be a solid guy, right? I think that's something Kyle Shanahan would rather do, because the ability to hold a running back who was good for a couple of years, like 4 to 5 years, is something Kyle Shanahan loves. If we look at all the guys he has, Jermichael Hasty, Jeff Wilson Jr., those are guys he's been able to keep for a while. Another name I'm going to throw out there, a guy who's probably had the worst camp of any 49er. You know who I'm already talking about, Ambry Thomas.
Okay. We talk about Thomas. What does he need to show? Well, first of all, he's a third-round pick. Second of all, I like what the 49ers did. Last 2 days, Ambry Thomas has been the starter. What have the 49ers done? They said, we're already killing it. We're throwing you in the fire. Might as well just put the cherry on top and play you press man. Ambry Thomas is a better press man corner than a soft corner. He isn't great in zone coverage right now. He doesn't have the responsibility, and it's almost always a catch if he's targeted in soft coverage. Whereas in press coverage, he at least gives the defense a chance to where he can potentially lock up in coverage. And the problem hasn't always even been coverage with Ambry Thomas in press man. It's at the catch point, and that is where I'm going to hit the nail on the head. Can Ambry Thomas show any improvements at the catch point? Because coverage is great and all, but if you're consistently giving 20-yard catches while also being at the spot every time, it's even more frustrating than just giving up the 20-yard catch regularly, because you're showing promise on the play, but then you're just not finishing the play. So to me, Ambry Thomas has showed that he can win at the catch point, and the biggest thing is, can he show that he can win against against higher level receivers? Because guess what? Emmanuel Mosley and Travarius Ward are not playing tomorrow. Both of them are out. Mosley might not even play in week 2 as they ease him back from a hamstring injury. He's expected back next week, but Ward is not playing in the preseason probably. He's going to go against receiver 1s, receiver 2s in that short period in the first half. Can Ambry Thomas play well in that period and then continue that when he's playing over the rest of the quarters?
So I absolutely agree. I think this is the moment Ambry Thomas pushes himself back into the cornerback 2 depth chart. Like, you know how you and I have been talking about how he's been getting a little bit less run than Phenomenal Lenore, and how the Demos had a great camp. I mean, this is the opportunity for him to push himself back in that category as being the third best corner on the roster, or being the third guy from the depth chart wise. I think what he needs to do, not only make plays on the ball, I think he just don't give up any big plays, because the 49ers defense is so good that you're going to give up small plays. You're going to give up small play. Just don't give up that big chunk play that he's known to give up. And I think that's how he'll have a good preseason game. I think he's going to be targeted a lot. I think so is Domino Lenore. But then there's another guy. How do we dictate whether Samuel Womack has a good preseason? Because everyone wants to see him in the starting lineup week 1. At least I do, because I think he's very from what I seen the 2 days there at Camp
He
Rohan,
started.
I
Started
think
all
he's
of
the starting. I think he's the new starting nickel corner on the roster.
Yeah, he started all of what was yesterday? Wednesday. He started all of Wednesday, took all the first team reps. He didn't take as many in the walkthroughs, but come real scrimmage time, he took all of the first team reps and he played pretty well. Held up again. He had gotten reps against the ones before. His one pass attempt that I recorded was an incompletion of PBU at the red zone on a pass intended for Jawan Jennings that was a little behind him by Lance. Womack got his hand in there. And to me, it's can he hold up against receivers without holding? I don't necessarily think holding is an issue with Womack, but he's got long hands. I wonder, does he try and utilize more technique, or does he rely on his traits in his first big test? Because I don't know if Womack will start tomorrow, just because the 49ers normally slowly trickle these rookies in. He might start towards the end of camp, but I think they're end of preseason. But I think they might just behind closed doors operate with him more in the starting position, while maybe starting Denard at times. But to me, the way that he breaks it away is not even with his coverage. I'm honestly pretty comfortable with his coverage. How does he hold up in the run game? 49ers have not tackled at all this offseason yet, right? It's been padded practice, but nobody's tackled. The biggest thing with these guys, and especially because K'Wan Williams was a pretty solid run defender as compared to a pass coverage guy. Well, can Samuel Womack fill that hole? He's about 190. He's around the same build, I believe, as K'Wan Williams. And can he be a solid run defender as well? And can he also shoot the gaps on cornerback blitzes like the 49ers like to do? Those are the two things that the 49ers really like from their slot corners, obviously, in addition to their coverage. Can Womack show out in those two areas to solidify himself as that slot cornerback for the 49ers week one?
I think you hit the nail on the head. How does he handle the run game? What does he do in terms of putting himself in a good position to make these tackles? Right. At the end of the day, you got to put yourself in a good situation. I think from what I've seen from his tape, he's a good tackler. And I think at the end of the day, all you have to do is do it. It's more so about doing it, because we're going to see a lot of missed tackles preseason game one. These guys haven't tackled, and it sucks because preseason game football is so shitty because we don't see any of these guys tackle in camp. So then they come out here and they're not used to tackling. So we end up seeing so many missed tackles. I'm excited to see Samuel Womack not only lock up in coverage, I want to see them allow him to blitz at least one time to show off that speed, because he is fast. And I think once people start seeing him in coverage, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, like we get why people want him to start.
Yeah.
But like you said, run game and blitzing for me is going to be the biggest key to see if he can start. Because I don't know if Denard could do it, but I know Denard is capable of being decent in the run game. He's a bigger sized guy, and able to throw his body around.
And also, one last thing that I want to mention about the cornerback position. Darquez Denard saw some time at outside corner yesterday due to the lack of available bodies. Now, we saw Womack have time at outside corner during minicamp, while Castro Fields saw some time in the slot. I think Womack will stay in the slot because yesterday's practice indicated they kept him in the slot the entire time rather than even throwing him with the backups outside. If Denard continues to play just a little bit of outside, limiting his slot reps, can Womack eclipse or like just take that opportunity and run with it? Because he might be given more opportunity in the slot compared to Denard because of the lack of availability right now. Because their top two corners are out. They're essentially down one corner. They signed Ken Crawley, but they're essentially down one corner unless they play Dante Johnson there. So if Denard does take outside corner reps, does Womack run with that opportunity of primarily playing in the slot and take the job?
That would suck, right, for Denard, because in that situation, Denard's doing the team a favor, doing them justice by playing outside because they have lack of bodies out there, and then for the young rookie to come in and steal the position, right? But I
Hey, we've
said,
seen it before with the 49ers this training camp. We've seen that storyline.
but like I said at the beginning of camp, right? Denard is that veteran that they want to help mold Samuel Womack. Learn from this guy; he's super smart, and go take his job while you're at it, right? Like we're gonna. Like I literally said as camp was going, I said Samuel Womack right now, he was running with the 2s and 3s for a little while. And I had said, even before then, he's going to get run with the 2s and 3s. In a week, he'll be running with the 2s. And by the end of camp, last day is open, he'll be running with the 1s and taking the Denard's spot. That's literally how they wanted to ease him in. You don't just throw young rookie corners out there to be starters instantly. You have to let them win that job because corners that position where it's very mindset. Like you got to have that right mindset. And as soon as you lack that confidence because you're getting beat throughout camp, then that's when they start to struggle. And I think that's one thing that's happened with Avery Thomas, right? They're playing him in off coverage. He's getting beat on all these off coverage reps because he's not a good off coverage. That's not his style of game. And you start getting beat that way, and then now your confidence goes down because they've been picking on you in off coverage. Now, the main question, obviously, because there's a lot of people that are really curious on this question. News came out today about Jimmy Garoppolo potentially headed to the Cleveland Browns, and that they're saying that the Cleveland Browns might come after Jimmy Garoppolo if Deshaun Watson suspended for a little bit longer. What do you think happens with Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, I understand that there's a chance he goes anywhere in the NFL, right? Realistically, he could go anywhere. Do you think the Cleveland Browns are serious about Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't know if they're serious. I think they're in consideration. But the other thing to mention is, even though there were reports from Mary Kay Cabot, the lead reporter from the Browns, who did report the report that Jimmy Garoppolo was not an interest of the Browns previously, I think the Cleveland Browns have probably been in this like discussion the entire offseason, right? And so there are like, if we see a comment or something coming out that says the Cleveland Browns have done their homework on Jimmy Garoppolo, they did that 6 months ago probably. And so to me, I don't even know if they're sold right now on Garoppolo. And the way that I see it is if Deshaun Watson gets suspended for whatever, like 12 games, the maximum that he can get suspended for, because I understand the intrigue with Jacoby Brissett. And I understand that the Cleveland Browns probably believe that, especially after Baker Mayfield's poor play last year with his injury, that they still were a fairly competitive team, that they can probably win a couple of games with Brissett. But Garoppolo is a better quarterback. And with the Browns wanting to make the playoffs in 22, I can understand them trading for Garoppolo, obviously contingent on a restructured deal, which would require Garoppolo's blessing for him to go there. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't understand why he wouldn't want to go there, right? And so to me, I still think that it is likely that Garoppolo, or I think it's less likely than last time that Garoppolo gets cut right now, just because of the Matthew Stafford situation. You don't want him going to LA, at least the 49ers don't. And then obviously you don't want him going to Seattle. But I can see a trade happening to Cleveland if this Watson situation goes, but I honestly don't think a resolution is coming anytime soon. We still, even though he's been cleared, we still haven't heard from Rappaport Rappaport said a while back that he'd be fully cleared to make every single throw in a bit. He is throwing, but to consistently be throwing and not face maybe any fatigue or whatever it may be, I think we've yet to see that yet, at least any report on it yet. And also, Watson's situation first has to be figured out, which hasn't happened yet. If the Browns are a contender, I'm sure the 49ers also want to wait for that because they might see Cleveland as the team that might give them the most, given that they have the most cap space. And Garoppolo might also want to go there the most because they have the most cap space as well, which means they might give him a bigger deal. So I think, honestly, it'll still take a while for this situation to unfold. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he got moved there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, too, because all the investment that the Cleveland Browns have, like they have this, even if you pay Jimmy, for example, that whatever the cap hit is, $26 million, right, to play. And let's say he keeps you in contention for the playoffs, and Deshaun Watson suspended for 12 games, then you could be in a better situation because let's say Jimmy plays 12 games, the Cleveland Browns hopefully he would go 7-6, right? I mean, I would hope so, or 7-5. I'd hope so. You keep them over 500. That's with that good. How good of a team they have in the run game. With Amari Cooper, stuff like that. I at least think they would be over 500. It gives you a way better opportunity to have Deshaun Watson come in. And Deshaun Watson's a phenomenal quarterback, regardless of his situation that went on. I think he would give them a better chance to win in the playoffs and Jimmy, and then now they're in a situation where they actually traded for the guy to win playoff games, and it's Deshaun Watson. So I can see them doing that. I put this question up there: will Jimmy take some snaps? Rohan and I talked about this the other day. We both said I think he might have to in the sense of if no team actually comes calling and they want to see him throw against live teams, he might have to unless the 49ers allow him to take. There's no longer fans in attendance. There's no longer people in attendance. Allow him to go against the team, record it, send it to other teams. They might do that. Who knows? I'm not saying they will, but that's a possibility, right? Now you don't have no one in attendance. So if they really need teams to see that he could throw, they might have to throw him in the third game of the preseason just to be able to move him last minute, which I don't think they will. I don't think Jimmy takes any snaps throughout the preseason. Debo that
Yeah,
like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the 49ers Red Zone podcast
be sure.
on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe to Rohan's channel. And don't forget, when you guys go to Spotify, which we know you guys are listening to our Spotifys, you either send it to or Apple Music, you guys are sending it to your guys' buddies to listen to because you guys appreciate the content. Make sure you guys have them. Go and hit a review. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. We would highly appreciate those. Me and Rohan have been trying to do a little bit something different. Um, Rohan is gonna. Are you gonna be there tomorrow, Rohan?
I will be there tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be a fun game. I'll definitely be there tomorrow.
So Rohan will be reporting probably from the stands because he doesn't know how to be just a fan every once in a while. He's
Oh
probably gonna
my
be
god.
reporting from the stands. He's always in work mode. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
also, if you guys are at the game, be sure to hit me on Twitter or something. And yeah, definitely come say hi. Definitely want to see who all y'all definitely want to put a face to the name that continues to pop up in the chat. So if y'all are there, definitely come say hi.
so be
And
prepared. I met Rohan. No exaggeration. He's 6'8". He should be playing in the NBA. He reminds me of Chet. What's his name? Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren.
He's he's Chet Holmgren. He's that tall. He's lengthy like that. Jeez, when I met him and he was like he walked in. We were walking in to go get food, and he walked in and the door was right here, and he wasn't paying attention. He hit the door. Like that's how tall he is. So he's 6'8". You won't miss him. If he stands up, you'll know it's Rohan. Uh, but literally, if you are there, go check out Rohan.
Uh,
I
yeah.
I like this right here because this was my childhood. Who's got it better than us? Um, it was my childhood. The best times I've ever had. I thought the 49ers were pretty good at that time. And the answer to that is nobody. But I can no longer say that because the 49ers don't say that anymore.
Real quick to end today's podcast on the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, the reason that I also could see, I could envision the Browns scenario. The Cleveland Browns are an interesting team. Who do they play in the first 4 weeks? They play the Carolina Panthers, the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then the Atlanta Falcons. Then their next 4 games are the Chargers, Patriots, Ravens, and Bengals. You don't need Jimmy Garoppolo to win week 1. You can beat all of those 4 teams with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback. Meaning if the 49ers get Jacoby Brissett, not Jacoby. If the 49ers trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the Cleveland Browns later than expected in the offseason, and they don't have enough time to get him acclimated into the offense and everything, week 1, you have that those 4 weeks to really get Jimmy Garoppolo involved before the main stretch where you're expecting that him to somehow bolster your offense to win some of those games.
But the thing is, though, Rohan, they really wouldn't need to get him acclimated into the offense because it's a very similar system, right, to Kyle. So he wouldn't have to sit there and learn the playbook. Rohan, we have Rohan because she will be there. Miss Debbie Ryan has an amazing hat. She has a bunch of cool.
Yeah, I saw her
Not
once
patches.
at training camp. Unfortunately, I couldn't say hi, but I saw her at training camp. That hat is really cool. But overall, I don't know at the moment actually where I'm sitting. I will check after this. I
Well,
don't know.
make sure you find out and you let Miss Debbie Ryan know. I believe she's in section 2 something. Like it's in so the way I could explain it, I want to say like 220 roughly. Like that's in like the area. She's in like the top. second row, second deck, facing the north end zone, I believe. So that's where she is, I believe. Yeah, 224. See, I was pretty close, right? Hey, shout out to Miss Debbie. She allowed me to take my brother, my dad, and my sister to one of the games. Shout out to you, Miss Debbie.
Hey,
Appreciate you.
shout out Miss Debbie.
So that's it for today's episode. Me and Rohan went an hour and 9 talking about what you guys should expect for preseason game 1. We'll be doing this back probably on Saturday after preseason game 1 as a recap.
Yeah.
If you guys missed the beginning of the episode, we did go over what we expect from Trey Lance and some of the other guys. So make sure you go back, rewind, and tap in on there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Red Zone, everyone from the Red Zone, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in.